Hi everyone, I'm Jerry Hargrove, the developer advocate for Amazon Lightsail. In this video I'm going to show you how easy it is to deploy a containerized Python Flask application with Amazon Lightsail containers. In this video I'll show you how to create a container service in Amazon Lightsail, how to build a container for a Flask application, and how to deploy that container to the container service. More information about tutorials to accompany this video is included in the description below. Let's get started. First, log into your AWS account and navigate to the Lightsail web console, and then open the Containers tab. Here you'll see any existing container services if you've already created some. Otherwise, your Containers tab will look like this, empty. Next, create a container service and provide the necessary details for the service, including the service's location, its capacity, and its name. The location of your container service indicates which AWS region the service will be in. You should choose a location for your container service, just like you would if you were launching a Lightsail instance. Select a region that's close to where the users of the service will be, or you might have other data sovereignty or regional requirements that will help you make your choice. The capacity of your container service determines how much power and scale it has. For a minimal Flask app like you're building today, a single micronode will be okay. If your capacity requirements change later on, you can easily return and update both the power and scale of your container service. The name of your service should follow the naming guidelines and uniqueness constraints provided. This name will become part of the default domain name for your container service, so it needs to be DNS compliant. Finally, review your container service configuration, make any changes if needed, and then create the container service. After a few minutes, your container service will be provisioned and ready for use. From the container service page, you can create and review deployments, change the service's capacity, administer custom domains, and view metrics for your service. Now that you've created your container service, I'll show you how to create and push a Docker container to your Lightsail service from the command line. Before you get started, you'll need to install Docker, the AWS command line interface or CLI, and the Lightsail control plugin on your system. Also, I'm using Visual Studio Code and a Linux instance to create and push my container image to Lightsail. Depending on your system and tools, the UI and commands you use might differ. To build the container, you'll need 3 files: the application code, a Python requirements file, and a Docker file. Let's look at each one briefly and then build the container. The application code defines a minimal Flask application. It first imports the Flask class and creates an instance of that class. Next, the route decorator tells Flask what URL should trigger our function, in this case the root directory. That's really it. The requirements text file specifies what Python packages are required by the application. For this Flask application, there's really only one package required, and that's Flask itself. The Docker file specifies how the container image should be built. The from instruction initializes a new build stage and sets the base image. We're using an Alpine variant to keep image sizes small. The expose instruction lets users of this image know that the container will be listening on port 5000, the default Flask port. The remainder of the instructions set the working directory, install dependencies, and copy the main application code. Building the container is as simple as running docker build in the same directory as the Docker file and providing a tag so we can reference the container later. You can test your container image locally using the docker run command and then use curl or your browser to verify that it's working properly. After the container is built, push it to the Lightsail service you created with the push container image command provided by the Lightsail CLI plugin. This command includes the name of the container services you created in the previous section, as well as the tag for the container image you just built. This command stores the container image with your container service. Now you can reference it by its unique ID when you create a deployment. Now that the service has been created and the container image built, we'll return to the Lightsail console to deploy your container service. Back on the container service page, you'll see a new tab has appeared called Images. This is where you can view and administer the images stored with your Lightsail container service. On the Deployments tab, create a new service and provide the necessary parameters. Provide a unique name for this container and specify the image the container should use. In this case, the image you created in the previous section, but you could also provide the name of a container in a public repository. Next, specify the configuration for the container, including the run command, and any environmental variables or open ports. Our Flask application uses the Flask run command and also needs to know where the Flask app is located. In addition, we'll specify which port the Flask app is listening on, port 5000. Finally, create a public endpoint. A public endpoint allows end users or consumers of your service to reach it from the internet. Lightsail will create a secure public HTTPS endpoint for your service that is accessible through the default domain name. Once your service has been deployed, you can visit the public endpoint with your browser by clicking on the link on the service page. Here you can verify that your Flask application has been deployed correctly and is accepting traffic from the internet. Once you've verified that your container service is operating correctly and you're finished with it, you can easily delete your Lightsail container service and all resources associated with it, including deployments and saved container images. In this video, I've shown you how easy it is to deploy a Flask application in the cloud using Lightsail containers. I demonstrated how to create a container service using the Lightsail web console, how to create and push a Docker container to your Lightsail service from the command line, and then how to deploy your container from the console. Amazon Lightsail Containers is an easy way to get started with containers in the cloud, particularly for startups, developers, and hobbyists taking their first steps into containerization. You can use Amazon Lightsail containers to learn more about containers in the cloud, to gain experience running containers in the cloud, and along the way benefit from simple container orchestration. For more information about Amazon Lightsail containers, please visit the Lightsail product page. Thank you.